So what we're talking about today is really just, it's about people who are a little bit undecided still about what program that they're interested in. So the agenda we're kind of going to be talking about today is going to be some common misconceptions that people might be having, or like I guess just some things they might not be aware of. The available options that you can take. We need to understand what are all your options before we can kind of narrow those down. We're going to be talking about, like, if you're looking at two different colleges specifically, which one you should probably be looking at accepting, because there are some smarter options there to actually do. And then finally, we're just going to be looking at, I'm just going to go with a general arts, a science versus an arts degree. But again, if you have a very specific situation, we can definitely go into details about what that would look like. So starting off, we have some comment. Oh, not sure why that bottom one's on there. So apologize about that. Whoops. All right. So I need to, a really common misconception is I need to know what I want to study in advance. That's not necessarily true. So most students enter university with a broad idea about what they want, and then they flesh it out as they proceed. Very few students actually come in, it's like, yeah, I'm going to want 100%, want to absolutely be this, and then that's it, and that's done. A lot of people still have a little bit of doubts, and just even those first few weeks of experience as a university student in a variety of classes give them a really good idea. And it helps cement, like, that I like this, I don't like this, I'm interested in exploring this. So that's proven to be quite beneficial. Another misconception that people have is if they change their mind about what they want to study, that they'll have wasted a lot of money and they'll have wasted a lot of time. And so that's not necessarily true. The first year with University of Saskatchewan and subsequently with St. Peter's College is quite flexible. It's quite transferable. Big reason for this is, I'll give you some data a little bit later here, but there's some pretty big changes that a lot of students do. And so if we do have students who come in here and they're like, oh, I'm thinking about this or this or this, we'll try and narrow it down first off. And if we still can't narrow it down, like what I said before, after those first few weeks or months of university, you have a much better idea about what you actually want to do. So we'll typically try and build a schedule for the student. And this is, the main campus advisors as well, that will work, depending on if you go this way or this way, because you're really able to do that a lot in your first year. Another really big misconception that we get a lot of times is like, oh, I'll just take a gap year and I'll figure it out later. There's some pros to a gap year. We have to acknowledge that. And I'm obviously a little bit biased here, but I also think there's some pretty big consequences that a lot of people don't really think about, especially with COVID. I've seen a lot of people think that, oh, I'll take a gap year because of COVID. If they're looking at like nursing or engineering or something like that. Well, when you come back, you're going to be, there's, I don't know, like 1 in 3 students or 1 in 5 students or 1 in 10 students, however many, if they all took a gap year and they all come back, you now have increased competition for that. So that's going to make it even harder for you to get into what you wanted. But some other consequences here is you can miss out on some scholarships, not all the scholarships, but there are some select scholarships that specify that you must be an Exeter high school student. So just because you're a first year student does not mean that you might be eligible for all the scholarships out there. So it's a good idea to do the research first and figure out. I always recommend, if people are undecided, apply anyways, apply for the scholarships and see what you get. If you get nothing, there's a little bit less, there's less consequence to that decision. But if someone's offering you a $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 scholarship, that might affect your decision-making quite a little bit, because that's frankly a free year of university. And just because you take a gap year doesn't mean that, you're going to actually have everything figured out at the end of that. You might still be a little bit confused about what you wanted to do. Moving that. And then another big thing that a lot of people don't really think about is you are going to lose some study skills. This, I'll be honest, this is a little bit more minor, but you will lose some study skills. You will lose some knowledge and whatnot that you had in high school. So if you're looking at like a science degree, you'll probably need to take a couple math classes. And if you have to take like a math class, like calculus, and you wait a year since you took it in high school, you'll just recall less information. You'll have lost a little bit of that skill set. Again, that's not a big deal. It's just something to be aware of. And then another option we see a lot of times is, I don't want to study. I don't want to study online. So what's the point? Well, good news for you is no one's actually finalized what's happening for fall 2021 yet, for the main campus. They haven't specifically said what's happening. And for St. Peter's College, We are going to be in person again for fall 2021. We were in person this year. We have yet to have a case of COVID among our students, our staff, our faculty, our stakeholders, our resident students, and whatnot. We are, as far as we're aware, are COVID free. So really happy about that. So we are going to be continuing our in-person classes for next term. Another misconceptions here is I'm the only one who's undecided. We get a lot of this, oh, I'm the one with this problem. This has never happened before. Trust me, if you have a problem, odds are one of the advisors has dealt with it before. So just to give you some numbers here, if you are a little bit undecided right now, that's not uncommon. 1 in 3 students who are accepted to university, who arrive there that first day, they change their mind in the first year. So they change something about their program just in the first year, whether that's, I'm going to go from a psychologist to I don't know, like a teacher or something like that, or I'm going to go from engineering to business, whatever it might be. By the time you get to graduation, so after those 4 or 5 years have passed, a half of students have changed something in their program. So half of students have changed something by graduation, whether that's if you're a teacher, a teaching area, or oh, I'm going to want to teach little kids now instead of like high schoolers, or that's an engineer where I wanted to be a mechanical engineer and now I'm an electrical engineer. There's a lot of adjustments that happen. So again, it's very common. They understand this. We have the data to back this up. So typically what the university will do is they will try and schedule stuff so that it's as flexible as it can be. So that if you do change your mind, there are opportunities to still make use of the classes that you've put and the knowledge that you've gained. And again, advisors are really familiar with these types of situations. We deal with them all the time. Another really big misconception we get is that some degrees are better than others for non-entry. And I'll show you what a non-direct entry means just a little bit here, but this it's yes and no. Some degrees better align in subject area. For example, to be like a doctor, the only requirement is you need a degree. So technically there are people who've got something with drama and engineering, but of course having some type of a degree in like a science and a medical background would be a little bit better there just because you're more familiar with the content and the skills required. And another big one we see is, oh, I'm not smart enough. So what's the point? I won't get through university. Totally wrong. Realistically, if you've been to a couple of my other sessions, you would have heard me say this as well. Realistically, it doesn't matter how quote unquote like smart you are for your first year of university. What really matters is your study skills. If you have good study skills, and you're doing that regularly, you're doing that well, you are going to completely outperform the kid who got 80s and 90s in high school without ever having to study in once. Study skills are what will make or break your university career. So these are the available options you can take with the University of Saskatchewan. We cover the vast majority of these, so we do offer most of these. So when I talked about non-direct entry programs before, I mean this little stuff at the left here. So that's stuff like dentistry, medicine, nursing, nutrition, pharmacy, vet med, being a lawyer, all the stuff like that. So that's what a non-direct entry program means. They all have different requirements. So if you're interested in that, you're undecided about, if your end goal is I want to be a doctor, but you're not sure what needs to come before that because you need a degree, well, then we can help out with that. So the available options that you have as a first-time university student with the University of Saskatchewan, you have 6 of them. I know there's a lot more than 6 here, but right now, technically, you're choosing 6 places to go to. Every single one of those programs has a really similar, if not a common first year. So all you have to really do at the very start is narrow down, I want to go to one of those 6. If you do that, we can then work forward a little bit. And even if you're undecided between, I don't know if I want to be business or, kinesiology or business or, agriculture, we can still work out a solution with you so that you can probably pursue both and make a decision later on, like, the next year or the next term, and still have everything count and transfer and graduate on time without having to take extra classes or spend extra money or spend more time as a student. So once you've established these 6 different options, then we can start really looking into the different options that you have there. Honestly, the biggest one that we tend to find is where I'm a little bit unsure, tends to be in those arts and sciences, because you have bachelor's of arts, you have bachelor's of sciences, which we'll be talking about right after this. So this is something that we always get is I'm undecided. and I'm not sure which place to apply to, or I'm not sure which offer to accept. And as much as we don't want to say, like, um, you know, this college is easier to get into than others, it's true. There are some things that you will want to accept this offer before you accept this offer, because they kind of go on like a pyramid, and you can go down the pyramid, but you cannot go up in the pyramid. So for example, if you're undecided between, I'm not sure whether I want to be let's just look at the Bachelor of Arts here. I want to be an English, I want to get an English degree, or I want to do kinesiology. Kinesiology is harder to get into. It's more competitive to get into. So you would want to accept the kinesiology term, because then you can always just, take the Bachelor's of Art classes and then just change your major to a Bachelor of Arts. Whereas if you want to go from a Bachelor of Arts, you want to go up that pyramid to kinesiology, you have to do a full-on new application and get accepted, which might not be guaranteed. So it's typically better to start higher. And, then if you choose to change what your major is and it's something else that's down on that pyramid, then you can make that adjustment quite easily. It's a lot more difficult to go up on that pyramid than it is to go down on that pyramid. So typically, like that little hierarchy, I guess, would probably be something like, like a kinesiology, and then education, then engineer, and then Edwards, and then agriculture, and then arts and science. That's nothing against arts and science. Arts and science is pretty diverse, and there's definitely some programs in there that are extremely competitive, but that's just as a general rule of thumb, where if you're undecided, lots of pre-med students, for example, aren't sure where to start, so kinesiology is a really common one there. Otherwise, they go to some great options in arts and science. So again, something that we really kind of get here a lot is, I'm not sure what I want to do. I know university is the right thing for me. We've already established earlier in this thing that people who are currently who I guess spend their first few months in university, they have a lot better of an idea about what they want to do. But that still doesn't help you right at the start when you have to register for classes. So we kind of developed, like, I guess, like a pretty a flexible schedule. What you see on here isn't exactly it, but typically we'll look at, what's the 2 or 3 options that you're looking into. That's what the advisors will do. And then they'll basically kind of put together a plan that allows you to do both and then make up your mind a little bit later. So it gives you that extra time where everything will count. Now, this is just a generalized thing that you see on your screen here. But if you're doing like a Bachelor of Arts, and again, this is very vague because there's like 20, 30 of them. You generally would take like an English, a social science, a science, a math, or a humanities, a fine art, an elective. Now, if you're doing something like, say like a science degree, so you're undecided, I don't know if I want to do biology or chemistry or, biomedical foundations or neuroscience or stuff like that. Same thing. There's a pretty generalized thing you can do. Take an English, social science, humanities or fine arts, a science, a bio or a chem, and then an elective. And again, those are very general. Depending on what you're interested in, we might say you should take the bio and the chemistry. We'll usually actually say that. If you're looking at like a computer science, we would say you should probably actually take a computer science this term, and that would help out a lot. So ultimately, what I'm really getting at here is that if you are undecided, you can kind of take a starter first year term that will still count towards basically whatever you wanted to do, but also give you an opportunity to kind of like trial and experiment with everything. So if you're looking at, computer science versus engineering, we could probably develop some type of a plan that would help you establish what you wanted to do. And another big option here, I don't really have like a slide for it, is this is really big actually. If you are a student who is undecided about if you want to go to university, you're thinking about it, or if you're still a little bit undecided and you want to just get a little ahead of that, what you can actually do is you can start in the summertime. So you can, even if you're a grade 12 student right now in this webinar, you can start as early as the summertime. So sometime in July or August after you graduate, you can take a class or two, and that will give you a really good understanding about if this is actually what you want to do. Like what I said before, I know this one's like, everyone here probably has some different questions about different programs, because if we go back, there's a lot of different program options here. So that's why I tried to make this one go really fast. So if you do have any questions, you can actually, type that into the Q&A or type that into the chat, or send me an email or whatnot, and you'll be able to, and you'll be able to ask any of the questions that you might have. I'm also going to include just a little a little link here. So this will be an opportunity for you to be able to ask us more information. You can do a prize draw. Is a summer class? Okay, so I got a question here. So is a summer class online or at St. Peter's? So that's a really good question. So right now, St. Peter's College isn't offering any spring or summer classes. So if you are looking at doing a summer class, it would have to be with like the main campus, the Saskatoon campus. And I'm going to guess that those are all online this year. They still haven't done that final answer, but it's basically going to be online. So even though we are open for in-person classes for fall, and we've been open all this year, we just don't offer any actual spring summer classes. So you would have to do that class with the main campus. Sorry, I'm just grabbing this little link here. So do you need special permissions for the summer classes since we are accepted for the fall term? Yes, excellent question. So you actually do need special permissions. So when you are, I'm assuming you're a incoming, so you're a grade 12 student, or you're just going into your first year now, and you probably applied for fall 2021. So you were accepted for fall 2021, but the actual academic year, it doesn't go from September to August. It actually goes from May up until April. So you can actually just ask admissions. So if you email, it's called admissions@usas.ca. That's the website. So that's admissions with the University of Saskatchewan. If you send them an email and you just say, I would like to start earlier in the summer term, they'll just change the registration date on your account. So then you can register for those classes early. And so registration for spring and summer classes is actually open now. So I would recommend trying to do that earlier than later. And the good news about this is, even if you're still undecided about whether you want to take a spring or summer class, you can register for the class, you can enroll in it, and you can just drop it up until the day the class starts with no financial or academic penalty. So you basically just hold your seat as you make a decision. So I'll be on the line here just for any other questions. But if you are also interested, you can do a prize draw by going to the chat. I've put a link in there. And then if you do have any questions, we'd be happy to get in touch with you and help out with anything that you have. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us as well through phone or email. We have a couple. We have 2 advisors here, so we're always happy to help out. Whether that's with a St. Peter's College question or a main campus question as well. But otherwise, that's really what I have for you folks. This one was a little bit different than the ones we've done for the rest of the week here. We do have one more session tomorrow about just learning more about what St. Peter's College is and some of the stuff that we do to help make sure that students are successful. But then that's really going to be it, I guess, in our February webinar series. So if there's no more questions, I will let you fine folks go. All right, you folks have a wonderful day then.